Welcome to today's baking video. Today we're making cinnamon buns. So for the recipe you'll need flour, baking powder, butter, milk, salt, cinnamon, and brown sugar. Vanilla is optional. Don't forget to have a couple mixing bowls, measuring spoons and cups, a spatula, and parchment paper ready. Great, let's get started. Don't forget to wash your hands before you start baking. I'm gonna wear gloves today because I like to use my hands and my hands are quite dry. So we're gonna add the flour to our bowl, 2½ cups. We're going to add salt, ½ teaspoon, so just a pinch of salt, and 4 teaspoons of baking powder. I'm gonna mix that up. And then we're gonna add the butter. Now I've cubed all my butter up so it's easier to add. If you have a pastry cutter, you can use a pastry cutter, but I just like to use my hands and smush it all in the flour like this. Great, so once your flour and butter mixture is all mixed in together, so there's no big lumps of butter, we're gonna slowly add the milk. And this is where I like to add a little bit of vanilla, but you don't have to. I'm just gonna add half a teaspoon to the milk. And then we're gonna slowly, gradually mix in our milk to the butter and flour. You can do this with water as well, but I just like the way it turns out with milk. Just little bits at a time. Great, so you want to mix that up till it's doughy and a little bit flaky and not too sticky. If it gets too sticky, add a little bit of extra flour. If it's not quite at this consistency and a bit dry, you can always add a little bit more milk. Now we're gonna put our dough in the fridge to stay cool while we do the next steps. The next step is to make our filling. So while we're making the filling, I'm gonna set the oven to preheat at 350 degrees. The dough is in the fridge cooling, and we're gonna mix all this up. So, butter, brown sugar, and cinnamon. And I like to add, this is my secret ingredient, just a little dash of cardamom. Now I'm gonna mix this up. I like to use my hands, but you could use a spoon. And you wanna make sure that the butter is pretty soft. So if you need to microwave it, go ahead and microwave it. So we wanna make a nice creamy paste with this. Okay, so I made the mistake of using too small of a bowl to mix up my butter, cinnamon, and sugar mix. So use a bigger bowl than this when you do yours. Mine got a little messy, but that's okay. Now that it's all mixed up, the butter's all mixed in with the sugar and cinnamon, we're going to set that aside and go and get our dough. Okay, you're gonna flour your work surface and set your dough out on it. Should be nice and cool from being in the fridge. Now, because this is more like a pastry dough than a bread dough, I like to fold it a couple times so it's extra flaky. But you don't have to do this process. If you don't want to, you can just roll it out and go from there. But I like to fold it 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 times, maybe more. Not too many though, 4 should be enough. Can add a bit more flour to the work surface before we roll it out. Now you can press it out with your hands, but sometimes that's a little bit tricky, so I like to use a rolling pin. Make sure the rolling pin's got some flour on it too. Oops. Voila. Okay, so I'm done rolling it out. You can see it's gotten to be quite a big flat piece of dough. It's quite thin as well, maybe 1/2 centimeter. And we're going to add the filling. So I've put my filling in the microwave for a little bit just to get it really good and soft. And we're just gonna spread it all over that beautiful dough. Every last bit of it. You can use a knife or a spatula, but this can be quite sticky, so I wouldn't recommend using your hands, especially if you put it in the microwave to melt it. All the way to as close to the edges as you can. It's okay if it's thin because we're gonna roll it up, right? So we're gonna have lots no matter how thin it is in some spots. Each bun will have lots of filling. There we go. Pretty even, I'd say. So now that we've spread out the filling into the dough, you want to make sure that you have a baking tray with parchment paper handy. We're going to roll it up and cut it up. Wow, beautiful job. So I like to space mine out so that they're almost touching with just a little bit of air space in between them, because I like the outsides to get a bit crispy. You can squish them all together and make one big loaf. It'll just take a little bit longer to bake that way. So these go in the oven for about 20 minutes. Wow, these smell amazing. They were in the oven for about half an hour until the edges of them are golden brown. You can let them cool or enjoy as is, which is my favorite. Or if you want to let them cool and add icing, you can do that as well. Enjoy!